So tonight, we got an update from the official website for Dragon Ball News, dragonball.news. This is the official Japanese website, which has been giving us little tidbits here and there about Dragon Ball Super and, of course, the upcoming Dragon Ball Super BROLY movie. And we have a new interview that came out today with the producer, one of the producers of the new film, Norihiro Hayashida, who I do believe was actually at San Diego Comic-Con just last week. And this interview gives us some very interesting new details about not only the marketing behind the new movie, but also sort of a little bit more information on the backstory as far as what they're planning, what they have been planning. Now, I've covered some of this stuff in the past, not this information, but we've covered several things involving the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie and some of the news that comes out of it. So make sure you check out the Dragon Ball Super playlist on Geekdom 101 and look through those videos if you haven't seen them all yet, because they do cover all the different news tidbits. This right here is going to focus on some of the backstory, like I said, and some interesting ideas they have about sort of what's been going on with Dragon Ball and the way that Japan is viewing it. Okay, now when it comes to this interview, of course, I'm not going to use Google Translate because it's kind of crap. It doesn't really work right. So let's go to Herms. As always, the #1 translator in our fandom is Herms. He's gone ahead and translated the important tidbits from the interview. Herms writes here, and I'm going to go ahead and read what he said and then tell you my thoughts on it and kind of elaborate on it a bit more from the information that I've gathered. He writes that the DB official site has an interview with DBS movie producer Norihiro Hayashida, like I said, reaffirms that Akio Iyoku's previous statement that the film will be a grand space opera. He says, I wondered if DB could pull that off, but it all clicked once I read the storyline. Of course, Akio Iyoku is the chief of the Dragon Ball Room, the one that's supposed to be making all the new storylines and helping Toriyama out. So one thing I want to take note of real quick is the whole grand space opera thing. Now, what they mean by space opera is that the best comparison I can make to this is Star Wars, because Star Wars, its genre, its subgenre, you know, from all the way back in 1977, it was kind of a new genre at the time, even though there were some films that fit into the category, was space opera, which means it's not science fiction, but it does have science fiction elements in it. It's much more of a drama, and that is really exciting for me, because that means that this story in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie is not just going to be just a regular movie like the Resurrection F films or the old DBZ movies, where it was just, you know, villain shows up and they fight him and they win. This is actually going to add to the lore, and Toriyama has put his stamp on the story, which to me is very exciting. I think Battle of Gods opened up the lore by introducing the Gods of Destruction, Beerus, and Whis and whatnot in 12 universes. Resurrection F really didn't. You know, it just added something to Frieza that he can do a golden form. That's pretty much it. But this movie really is going to expand things from what we're saying here. So Herms goes on to translate. This time around, they've been sure to leave enough time for Toriyama to check over everything, something they couldn't really do before, but the creation of the Dragon Ball Room has helped with that. And that's what I was talking about earlier, is the Dragon Ball Room is somewhat of a mediary between Toriyama and, of course, Toei Animation, Shueisha, and whatnot. It makes it easier. When Dragon Ball was running back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, and the movies were being made, Toriyama wasn't really told much. Takao Koyama wrote the original 13 Dragon Ball Z movies, not Toriyama. Toriyama designed some of the characters, but that's about it, because at the same time, Toriyama was not only helping out with the anime by designing some characters for that, but also writing the manga every week in Weekly Shonen Jump. Now that Toriyama is, I guess you can say, like, semi-retired, he is around to actually work on these films, not like there on location, but he's not going to be busy doing his own manga. He's actually, you know, he's much more hands-on now than he was back in the day when it came to the anime. I know some fans have been saying, oh, Toriyama's less involved now. No, he is less involved when it comes to making the original story, because the manga there's no original Toriyama manga. There's just Toyotaro manga and the anime. Now, it's Toriyama much more involved in crafting the story with the anime staff, as opposed to them just taking his manga and adapting it or writing a new story. So it says here, they received the storyline in June 2017 and spent from then till October going over the anime designs and whatnot. Now, when that was going on, for those of you who don't remember, that was actually right before the Tournament of Power began. The arc had begun, but not the actual tournament. That was the summer of 2017. So they have had this movie planned for quite some time. We heard that They first started the pre-production, getting Shintani and all them in February of 2017, right when the arc began. So this has been planned for a while, and I had been wondering, when did the anime staff become aware that Super was going to be ending in April or in March of 2018? This tells me they kind of knew for a while. They knew this movie was being planned. They knew it was going to happen, and that's that. Toei does not just do everything by the seat of does not fly by the seat of their pants. They actually had an idea of what was going on here. So, it says here, they received the storyline in June 2017. I mentioned that already. Toriyama confirmed things whenever the DB Room staff couldn't decide on something on their own, with Akio Iyoku doing a lot of the back and forth with Toriyama. So that's the guy who communicates directly with Toriyama and then tells the Dragon Ball Room what's going on. So he is the intermediary. Toriyama does not show up at these meetings. For those who don't know, we've been getting this question a lot. Kamea-Khan's been getting this question. Are you guys going to get Toriyama? I wish. Toriyama does not leave his house, ladies and gentlemen. He's extremely reclusive. When he was younger, this is a true story, Toriyama was getting married, and the paparazzi showed up at his house in the middle of his wedding and crashed the wedding. And ever since then, Toriyama has hated going out in public. That's why you never see him do interviews. You never see him do cons. He did one con in New York, I think in 2003 for Shonen Jump, and that was it. So as much as we would love to get Toriyama, and when I say we, I mean I speak for every Dragon Ball fan at every convention. Kamea-Khan, San Diego Comic-Con, it's almost impossible. The dude just won't even leave to work on his own stuff. So Akio Iyoku is the guy who goes back and forth with him, whether it be through email, fax, phone calls too. Now, moving forward here, Hayashida wanted an animation staff who could provide a properly cinematic sense of scale. He also wanted to get closer to Toriyama's current, slimmer character designs. Toriyama has provided far more design images for this movie than any previous one. Of course, what he's talking about is, like with Battle of Gods, we had a slimmer version of Super Saiyan God. Goku being slimmer. Beerus, of course, is slimmer. But it's funny because for this film, BROLY is anything but slim. He's like a big tank powerhouse. And I think they kind of had to do that because if they made BROLY like a skinny little wimp looking guy, it just wouldn't have fit Broly's character. BROLY, even though they're changing his character, he needs to be this big giant monster. Like, that's just kind of part of who he is. And you can change the character a little bit, but you can't go too far from the original source, especially the way he looks. So I do find it funny that BROLY is the opposite of that slimmer look. Herms goes on to translate, they've been very conscious of the overseas market during the production and marketing of the film and want to get it dubbed and shown in theaters overseas as soon as possible to cut down on piracy. Now, let me elaborate on that, okay? I've talked about this in the video I did on Tuesday. Toei is now becoming much more aware of how Dragon Ball's popularity has skyrocketed, not just in the United States and North America, but also other parts of the world, like South America, Mexico, Central America. It's huge. And yes, folks, Toei did not know how big Dragon Ball was. They didn't understand. They didn't. It wasn't until Resurrection F and the new Super stuff now that they really understood. So that's why now they've been talking about maybe bringing Heroes over, Bandai has. Maybe doing faster dubs. And that's the thing. I've seen people say things like, oh, I'm not going to go see the movie. It'll be leaked on the internet. Well, I got news for you. The other Dragon Ball movies did not get leaked until months and months after they aired in Japan. When it came to Resurrection F, there were some leaks that came out of Latin America and some leaks from Japan just a couple months later. But overall, the Japanese don't leak their movies. It's very hard. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's not like how it is in the US. So the whole reason why they're doing the dub a month after the Japanese version is in theaters in December is to cut down on piracy. Plus, I'm sure most of you guys are going to buy your ticket to go see the movie anyways because, number one, it's not that expensive, and number two, it's literally a month after the Japanese version, and you don't have to worry about spoilers for that for very long. It's a month. So it does make sense for them to do this, Otherwise, the movie will be out on the internet leaked, within weeks. And that's why they want to put the movie out faster, and it makes sense. I mean, we're more inclined to pay for the movie if it comes out a month later than a year later. See what I'm saying? That makes sense. That's logical. Herms finishes up by saying, with that in mind, the rough cut of the film will be used to get dubs finished quickly. So that means that Funimation and other companies are going to be getting the rough cut of the film, not the final version. I love that. So Sabat, Schemmel, all those guys are going to be receiving rough cuts of the movie, not the final version when it's fully animated. So that's very cool. It says here, at the same time, they're trying to leave plenty of time to do corrections in between the rough cut and final cut of the film, a luxury a lot of films these days don't have. So Funimation will get, you know, an early copy of the film. Like I said, the animation won't be finalized on that version. It'll look like maybe they'll have some shots of it like not being in color and, you know, whatever, things like that. Not, you know, no corrections being made, which I think is pretty damn cool. Then the final version will be put to the audio and boom, we got us a movie. So that tells me that actually the movie is still in post-production. I don't think the dub is even going to get recorded until November. I could be wrong. It could be early December, but right around then. I'm not expecting it to be before that because there's still stuff that has to be done with the film. But either way, that is your super update. Thanks, as always, to Herm for translating this for us. And I'm just kind of elaborating on his translations and kind of explaining to you guys a little bit more about the process. That being said, this all makes perfect sense. You know, the movie's coming out so soon after it comes out in Japan that we'll be able to really see the film soon. We don't have to wait a long time. And honestly, dude, I want to see a Dragon Ball movie in theaters. I love seeing Resurrection F in theaters, the big surround sound, the big screen. It's a whole different experience than if you download it online. I think it's going to be much better if you go see it in theaters. And most countries are going to get the movie much faster this time. Latin America, Mexico, they're getting the movie in January. France, I've heard, is getting it in January too. And then soon after, Italy, Germany, you know, Spain, you'll all get your dubs not too far late. So I don't know about the Middle East. I don't know about India. I don't know about Hong Kong, Korea. I don't know yet. I'm sure it won't be that long, though. They're moving this really quickly. Anyways, that's it. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the video. Love y'all. And, yeah, the excitement continues to build for Dragon Ball Super Broly this December or January, depending on where you live. I'll see you soon.